Hi, I am Angel Davis, and you are listening to Verbally Naked, a podcast devoted to the enhancement of relationships, or so we hope. I said we because I am here with my partner in crime, Mr. Peter Hermes.
Hey, baby, how are you? How are you feeling, pregnant lady?
Yes. If you're tuning in, this is Verbally Naked's third season, and this is the She's Having a Baby season because that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Quite literally,
Yes, quite literally.
you are right there. You're ripe.
How am I feeling? I am physically. It's interesting. A friend of mine, fiance, asked today, like, what does it feel like? Does it feel like, um, kind of what it, basically what is it, what has it felt like the last like 6 months, like, or whatever. And I likened it to feeling like you overate. When you had like you knew you shouldn't have that dessert, but you really kind of wanted it, and then you can't. It's just got to digest, and you just have to sit through that miserable, uncomfortable feeling. It's like that, but it doesn't go away. You don't get to poop it out. You don't get, it doesn't digest on its own. It's just there. So every day I wake up feeling like I ate a buffet.
Yeah, and that buffet is repeating on you down there, just moving around. And
yeah.
Well,
it's
almost over.
Yeah. We are exactly 1 week away from
That's right.
meeting this creature that we've created on the outside of me. Which is, both, it's exciting. It's also a little, I do have a little anxiety because I am having a C-section again. I do have a little anxiety about just all the prep and the surgery and everything. But,
of course.
But ultimately, I do want, people are always like, enjoy it because, the real work starts when he comes out. Yeah, but my, like, I hopefully
you
won't
get your life back.
Yeah,
to
like
a certain degree.
I'm like, but I'm hoping to not feel like crud that entire time. I know we'll be tired, but to have to be nauseous every single day and anyway. So here we are.
Yes, this is our season ender. This is the last episode of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to wrap things up and talk about...
We're going to swaddle it.
We're going to swaddle it. We're going to talk about the things that we've learned over the last 9 months.
6 years?
Well, okay. Over the last 40 years.
Yeah.
We're just gonna wrap things up. What have we learned? What has surprised us?
So,
any last hopes and dreams before he gets here? I certainly can't wait to meet him. One thing I've noticed is that this has been a very long 9 months.
Yeah.
This pregnancy has taken a long time, and I think that just probably speaks to the fact that I can't wait to get him out here.
Yeah.
And so, my goodness, it feels like it's been a couple of years.
I think also, not to cut you off, the emotion of the miscarriage and then trying for almost 2 years and then getting pregnant and then, all the emotions that come with that, and then the scare we had at 10 weeks. I think all of that sort of is wrapped into all of this experience. So it does feel like
it's been a little bit of a stressful pregnancy because of those things.
Yeah, and I feel like
eggshells. Like, are we good? Constantly, are we good? How's he doing today? Is he moving around?
Is he moving? Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of also what's adding to the length that it feels like. You keep saying feels like it's been. I mean, you keep saying exactly 2 years, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's because of also the almost 2 years of
Must
trying.
be, you know.
And then finally we're pregnant. You know, it's just like every month really devoting to trying to get pregnant, and then you get you know. Anyway, I think that's sort of also tagged into the length of time that it feels like this has been going on. And you know, I've definitely had my uh, ups and downs,
Oh, of course.
and
Your appetites and your
yeah,
aversions and
you know, sickness.
you've been
And
very good though emotionally. From my point of view, unless you've kept things quiet, but you haven't gone through any like deep depressions or any. I don't know if there's such a thing as prepartum depression. I know that, some women, when they're pregnant, their hormones are crazy
Yeah.
and all of that.
yeah,
You've been very, very level. Certainly, you've had your moments,
I've had my moments.
but nothing that has been a worry or that has been, I felt, that was out of the norm. Just, you've been very level-headed. Like you've handled this whole thing with a ton of grace, and you've been through it before, so that I'm sure that's
Thank you.
helped. That's helped. But I mean, just the fact that you've been able to work out. I mean, you go 3 times a week, even still, to the gym, and you do intense workouts. Like, not all women. Some women, they get to that 7th month and they're like, I'm just going to sit on the couch and lay in bed and get this thing out of me.
Yeah.
You were as active as ever. And somebody said at the doctor today how good you look. Like, couldn't believe how thin you still are, even though you're 8.5 months pregnant, 9 months pregnant. That,
Well, yeah.
you've been able to really take this one.
And not to,
And it has not been a problem pregnancy. It's not as he's not caused you any out of the norm issues. You haven't been sick or
you mean beyond?
beyond the normal being pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, some babies are problem babies, problem children in the womb or whatever. Yeah, it seems like he's been fairly cooperative in this whole thing, except for not letting you sleep, but who needs that?
We're about to experience that. Going back to what you said, it's, and especially for any moms that are listening, every pregnancy is different, and so not everybody is able to work out. They're just not, because of a lot of the things you just said. Sometimes they're bedridden because they have high blood pressure, or
Your blood pressure is dropping every time we go in there. Your blood pressure is like,
I was like, am I alive
are
right
we
now?
worried that you have low blood pressure?
I know. I'm like, maybe we need
Because that is a big thing. That and
Maybe we need to work on it.
diabetes is an issue in pregnancy.
gestational diabetes. So there's,
Like,
there's
none of that. Like, you've been 100%.
I've been very fortunate in that way. Yeah, there's a lot of factors though that, and some women just don't want to. Some women, when it going back to the exercise thing, some women are just like, this is my time. This is my time to just relax and not put any stress on my body or whatever. And for me, I mean, it wasn't about keeping thin, because that is just luck. Because I mean, there's just no telling how your hormones are going to react once you get pregnant. And so it's not like when I'm working out, I'm actually maintaining some kind of real weight. You gain weight, like that's what happens. But for me, it was just about, honestly, I just didn't want to have to start from the beginning by taking so much time off, because I know I'm going to have to take time off because I'm having a C-section.
Oh, of course.
And I did karate up till 8 months. But I just didn't want to have to start that, especially that class, all over again. And so I was just trying to keep that muscle memory. But it hasn't been easy. I've certainly have modified all of my classes.
Well, you fooled me.
Well, no,
You
but
made this look as if it's just that thing you did for 9 months.
no, I mean,
And then on the other end of it, a baby showed up.
no, I just mean that I don't. I mean, because I know the struggle, and I know women are so hard on themselves, and I don't want anybody listening to this feeling bad or guilty because they're not doing, what I did or whatever. I mean, there's some women I've seen pictures, especially like of like bodybuilder women, who I'm like, you still have like a 6-pack with that. How is that even possible? It's like there's a 6-pack around the baby.
Right.
Like it's weird. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not, yeah, that's not me. But,
No, you've been able to keep active.
but
and
I've been
that's
able to keep
important.
active. And I think also that might help the emotion part too. Obviously, working out
It's a good stress reliever, I would say.
gives you, and it gives you a mental boost. And so that might help. Brad actually said the same thing when I was pregnant with Brian, that for the most part, I did not have the crazy hormonal swings.
Sure.
I like you said, I certainly will have my moments, but more in the beginning because I felt so bad all the time.
Right, but I wouldn't say that you were a maniac or, that you turned into a different person
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
You just were dealing with,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you've been able to
Thank you
stay
for-
you,
I've tried.
and you've been able to keep doing the things that you do daily. Like at the beginning, certainly you were bedridden. It was really bad. The first trimester was quite bad on you, and I certainly had to take over the daily everything.
Yeah.
But even now, like once the second trimester kicked in, you were back and you haven't stopped. Like, yesterday I was out and about, and you did everything. You took the kid to school in the morning, and you cooked dinner tonight. You're having a baby next week, and you're cooking dinner. We split those
That's
things.
because
Still,
you didn't do what?
I made dinner last night. I make dinner a lot of nights because I'm helpful and I'm a good husband. But you haven't lost a step.
Yeah.
Anyway, beyond that, let's talk about this baby and what
if no. What have you learned?
What have you learned
through this process, through all of this? Because here's the thing, this is my second time.
Right.
So I have different things that I've learned, but what have you learned as basically a first-time father from this perspective?
That's a good question. What have I learned? I've learned a lot about what pregnancy is. I haven't learned what being a father to an infant is yet. That starts next week.
Right.
I've learned about pregnancy. I know more about the trimesters and the doctors and all of that stuff. So, I've always been a very patient person, so I don't feel like I've learned to be patient. I'm learning how fragile 8-year-olds can be, even when they show strength.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that, I take it for granted that Brian is such a strong, independent, just well-rounded person. I take that for granted because when she does show weakness and when she does show me that she's an 8-year-old, it's weird because, and so I'm having to learn, that there are certain things that are coming for her, that there's emotions that she's dealing with right now. She's about to not be the center of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard because she's 8 years of being an only child.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's got not only a sibling coming, but an infant. I mean, who doesn't like an infant? I mean, people are going to gaga and goo over this kid. And we have to, as parents, we have to make sure she doesn't feel left out. We have to make sure that she still feels loved, which she always will be, and part of the family, which she always will be. But you know, as she, as the 8-year-old brain works in a certain way that mine doesn't work that way, and I want, I see these things and I'm like, come on, you can, that's not a big deal. And it's like, well, that's coming from a 42-year-old brain.
Yeah.
So I'm having to learn that, I have to learn and remember that when you're a kid, small problems are huge problems. There are no small problems because you don't have any experience.
Exactly. They don't have anything else to reference
when
to
when you're in your 40s, you've lived and when, like, okay, that's not a big deal. An 8-year-old doesn't understand that. And so I have to learn to, I guess, be more patient and be more generous with my emotional feedback, I guess, to her. I guess that might be the right way to put it. So, because she's struggling a little bit. I mean, a lot of the struggles right now are we're getting packages from our registry. So this kid who isn't even here yet is constantly getting gifts,
right?
Whether it's clothing or we have.
And they're all practical gifts. Like
of course, we've got a stroller in there. We've got a car seat sitting over here. We've got a little baby chair and a diaper genie. But still, these are things. Brian's like, nobody's giving me anything. And it's just like, but you got stuff. This kid's got nothing.
Which, on some level, she totally understands.
Oh, yeah. She's not stupid.
But then on some other level, it does feel like, especially, I get it, package after package. It's like, still he needs more stuff.
Where's the package for me?
I'm not of the theory that she needs to get stuff just because he gets things. No. So we're working through all that. You're right.
She had that moment, and then I feel we took her to Target and we let her buy something with her own money.
Well, yeah, it was her birthday. It was her birthday.
Right. So in a sense,
card.
we saw that need of hers that, like, I'm not getting these things, but we didn't run out and buy her something. We said, if you want something, you're welcome to pick something out and pay for it with your money. So I feel like it's sort of like a compromise to that mentality of, that consolation. Everybody gets a prize or whatever.
Right,
we don't want to be those parents.
No. And it just so happened that she had that. I mean, she had mentioned it to me earlier that day, and then when you mentioned going to Target that particular day when she had sort of an emotional response to something that the baby received, then it just made sense. I was like, well, we're going to Target. Why don't you just use your gift card? And, And
then what did she buy? A toddler doll.
A toddler
She
little
basically
boy.
bought a baby.
She did, which is really funny. But
she's getting ready.
She's working through things, and we talked this morning.
She's very emotionally intelligent. She understands. She's preparing herself.
She is. She really is.
Because before she bought this toddler doll, she bought an actual infant doll.
Yeah.
And so now she's got an infant. Mm-hmm. She's got a toddler.
Yeah.
And she's got teenage Barbie dolls.
Yeah, but
so she's got all the stages of life.
But this is the first. Those two, like, baby dolls, if you will, are the first dolls of that nature where I don't know how she plays with them.
Yeah.
But
she also has a Hatchimal, which is something that you have to care for.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that those are the first thing. These are the first types of dolls in this way that she's ever remotely been interested in. So you're right. I find it interesting that, now that she's going to have a sibling, she's suddenly interested in like infant life and babies.
That kid knows how to. I haven't started practicing putting a diaper. I'm going to follow the directions, and I'm sure it's not that difficult. But that kid puts diapers on her stuffed animals.
Yeah.
That kid is a professional at putting diapers. I mean, it's a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid is literally prepared for having a little dude around.
Well, we talked this morning, and
she's going to teach me some things.
We made a pact. She made a pact, and we made an agreement and she promised that if she starts to have, an emotional response to having a sibling, if she starts to feel down or in any way uncomfortable or awkward, that she is going to come and we're going to talk about it with
Good.
all of us, as a family, because I told her, it's important for us to know,
Yes.
obviously, how she's feeling, and that, our goal isn't for anyone to feel left out or uncomfortable or any of that. And we understand this is a change for all of us. We're all going to be experiencing this together.
Right.
So we'll see, but she shook my hand, and her word is gold.
Yeah.
So that's what you've learned.
Those are a few of
or
the
some
things.
of the things you've learned.
Yes. How about you? What have you learned, being that you're an old hat at this?
That having support is important. We have a really great community of friends, family. Our doctor is really great. But even if I didn't have close friends, or whatever, if I didn't have a partner, I have the What to Expect When Expecting app, and they have a community board on there. But I think it's important to have people around you that either have some experience with what you're going through, but at least a sounding board for what you're going through. We've been really lucky, like with our friends who have, took care of Brian when in the first trimester, when I was like, Peter's working and I am dead. I am literally in bed, just dying. But also just, when we had that 10-week scare and we didn't know if we were miscarrying again, and just, I don't know. And just now, even through the times where everything looks really great, just having those friends who are so supportive and always, they're calling, they're texting, they're emailing, how are you doing? To be able to call upon friends who have 2 children, and for me to go, how was that second pregnancy? And, so that's just something I think I might not have really took in with the first pregnancy. I am much more aware of that, how much community means to me.
Right.
With this one. What else have I learned that's different? Well, I mean, everybody always talks about each pregnancy is different. And yes, that is absolutely true. I was sick as a dog with both. But with Brian, I had 2 months of not feeling bad. And then the rest of the time I felt bad. This one, it did better. It did, yeah. I'm still nauseous at least once a day.
Right.
But I'm functioning.
Sure.
And I think I function a little bit at a higher level than I did with Brian. I don't know. What else have I learned? Yeah, I don't know.
We learned today that he's going to be a little bit bigger than Brian.
Possibly.
At birth. From what they can tell, we're measuring they measure weight by size of the
head,
the
trunk, femur
bone,
and
right. And so they're predicting a 7-ish pound.
She said, like that he would be around the same size or
a little
maybe
bit
half a pound bigger, but there's no way they can, I mean, obviously, they can't guarantee that. There is a spread though. So
right.
He could also come out being 6'5".
Right.
I mean, they just, obviously it looks, as of right now, it looks like, based on the measurements that they can take, but I mean, it's not an accurate science. So,
So yes, With a week to go, we have one more doctor's appointment before we deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And then this weekend we have a CPR class that we're taking. That's a big long
We're
thing. Preparing. I have to go.
We're doing this last minute sort of.
I got to go get a vaccination for whooping cough. Then that'll happen couple days before we deliver. But yeah, Thursday morning is the day.
It's D-Day.
Yeah, today is Thursday, so
it seems like it took a lot to get here. It
did.
Brian actually mentioned something the other day that was both sweet and just kind of she looked at me with a sad face and she said, "I'm really sad that Daddy can't be here to meet my brother."
I remember that because we all had a conversation about that.
Yeah, and again, if you're just kind of tuning in,
her dad.
Yes, Brian's father passed away, so I am a widow. Even I remarried Peter last year. Yeah, so we had to have that conversation. And I said, "Oh gosh, that's so sweet," and
right,
and I understand that. And I said, but honestly, if your dad was here, then this whole thing would have never happened. I said, you'd be an only child the rest of your life.
Life would be very different.
Yeah. I said, we wouldn't live in California, and Peter would be,
just
maybe Uncle Peter to you at this point, or
who knows?
Just, our family friend Peter. But, I said, our whole life would be completely different, which wouldn't be bad. No. It would have been what it was, but a lot had to happen to get here. And it's been a very interesting road.
Yeah.
So, in saying that, as we wrap up this episode and this season, we have a name.
Yes, which I think I almost revealed in the last episode on accident.
Well, and if anybody pays attention to social media, my mother certainly blurted out
the
name. Not that a lot of our close family and friends, they already know, but
right.
But some people don't know, and
well,
they at least.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They at least don't know. The maybe not know how why we chose this.
Well, when we first got pregnant 2 years ago, we had come up with a name, and then this time we had talked about, well, that name is still on the table, and we decided, well, no, let's let that name be,
Well, you can say that name.
We were going to name him Watson.
Right, which was Bradley's middle name.
Right.
Which Brian and I still like. We just like the name Watson.
Yeah, Watson for a boy, and then I think Austin for a girl.
Which is Peter's middle name.
And that would have stuck on this one if he was a girl. We were going to go with Austin. Right. But he's a boy, and so we just sat down and the baby name conversations, and you pulled the books out and all that nonsense, and we were just like, well, let's do we want a family name? We started going through all of that, and
you weren't feeling Watson as a first. You were like maybe a middle name.
Right.
You decided that you weren't feeling it as a first name. So
how did we finally land on
this name?
This name. So however we landed on it, we may come up, but we decided to combine all of our names. Yes. So there's me, Angel, and Brian, and we all have different last names.
Yes.
So I'm Peter Hermes. There's Angel Davis, and then Brian took her father's last name,
right.
Brian Allen. And so we decided, how about first name Davis, middle name Allen, last name Hermes. So Davis Allen Hermes is what we've we've landed on.
Yes.
And so,
I think it was the thing about Watson. I mean, you asked early on when we had the baby conversation, would you want to name the baby after Brad? And I said, well, I've thought about that. I'm like, I mean, you know, I wasn't really keen on having another kid, but if it was going to happen, I thought about that. And I said, well, I kind of like to, because he's kind of the reason why we're together.
Sure.
Which you understood. And so we had talked about that, and I had mentioned Watson and whatever, and we kind of talked about that. And then once it like actually became a real thing, and you were like less enthusiastic about Watson, just not having anything to do with Brad, but just the name Watson. So then we started talking about that, and I think we just had a conversation about the three of us, Brian and you and me, and just how this baby basically ties us all three together.
Right. It makes sense.
Because
most people like it.
Oh yeah,
once explained.
Yeah, I mean,
people love it once explained.
He really is the tie that because if something were to happen to me, Brian has this connection to you,
right,
through him, right, and if something happened to you, obviously we'd have our connection to you through him,
right.
So and even though it still took life happening the way it did for him to even be born, it was kind of like this homage in a way, only it still tied us three together too. So that is how we came up with Davis, Allen, Hermes.
Yeah.
And so he'll be here next Thursday.
Yeah, and maybe we'll podcast about him next season.
Yeah.
Which we don't. We this is the third season.
We don't know.
Will we do a fourth season? I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will. What's the topic?
We don't know.
We'll figure that out.
We may not
when we
focus
get there.
on parenting at this point. We may
change direction altogether.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But relationships.
We may start reviewing movies.
Relationships do change when you introduce.
Sure.
Another person into the family. So, who knows what we'll end up talking about. But we appreciate you guys being here with us for this season.
Yes. It's been a good one.
We will, I guess, keep you posted if you follow us on social media about everything is going. But we're going to welcome Davis into this world next week.
That's right. So far, so good. We can only just mess him up from here on out.
Yeah.
So
we'll talk about when he goes to therapy later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Angel Davis.
And I'm Peter Hermes.
And you've been listening to Verbally Naked. And as always, live big.